Another episode of the Traitors US Season 3 has aired. Episode 5, another episode that grinded my gears. Mostly because of the gameplay, I would say, overall. You know, I cover a lot of Big Brother on this channel for many summers now, and I've just seen so much bad gameplay over the summers that it's hard to stomach that on another show. Because, you know, bad gameplay is expected out of the faithful in the first half of the game because they have a really difficult game to play. But the Traitors playing this bad the first half of this season too, it makes for a lot of bad gameplay to go around. And there was a lot. Again, before we get to this episode, I do want to talk about something that happened, the other videos that they post sometimes about the people that are eliminated and when they find out who the traitors are. I think Danielle is probably playing a better game than I've given her credit for on the whole acting thing anyway. She still played some bad stuff in this episode that we're going to talk about. But other than Tony and Jeremy, the Survivor winners, everyone else that's been eliminated did not see the Danielle thing coming. So while her acting, to me, she does it too much, it's working on the other players. Which is not surprising, though, because as we saw from this episode, the faithful are playing horrendously. Now, coming into this episode, the traitors had to kill off someone else. And I think their options, it came down to Gabby, Robin, and Britney Spears' ex. And this was the problem with the casting rearing its head again, is because we're supposed to be waiting with bated breath about who was opted when one of the options is Britney Spears' ex. I promise you, there is not a single viewer watching this show that gives a shit about Britney Spears' ex. Not even a little nugget of crap do they give a shit about Britney Spears' ex. Like, nobody cares about him. That's why I still stick to my guns regarding the casting and why I would still prefer seasons where it's half real people getting a chance to play the game, normal people, and then half celebrities like season 1. Because if you're just going to cast a bunch of people out of nepotism, celebrity nepotism, then it makes for a bad cast. And that is my biggest gripe. Because I am tired already of having to sit here and talk about Britney Spears' ex, Zac Efron's brother, the person that cheated on Ariana Maddox, Amber's husband from Boston. I'm sick of the nepotism, really. So that is my biggest gripe with the season still is the casting. And, you know, I've sat here and I've shat on Boston Rob a lot over the past couple of weeks. I would not have to do that if he was not added to the game late. If Rob was just, because I've had a couple of Boston Rob stands in the comments, I would not have to crap on Boston Rob if he wasn't added to the game late. If he was a regular cast member from the beginning and was a traitor from the beginning, I wouldn't have my gripes with him because he would have been treated just like everyone else. I just think his treatment has been way too special for me to root for him when he has... The traitors already have the advantage, the clear advantage in the game. A traitor like Boston Rob doesn't need more. And he's not even doing a good job with his advantage because, like I said last week, he's a one-trick pony. Anyway, the traitors ended up killing off Robin. Robin, she was one of the more entertaining cast members, and she's not entertaining on her actual show of Real Housewives of Potomac. So, once again, that speaks to the casting. But Robin was also terrible at the game. She was loud and wrong the whole season so far. So her being killed off was kind of questionable. Once again, Carolyn was the most against it, but didn't stick to her guns and get out someone she wanted to get out. She let Rob call the shots this time, and so did Danielle. And then Danielle and Carolyn, of course they're not going to trust Boston Rob after what went down last time with Bob the Drag Queen. they would of course think he's going to come for them at some point if he has to. Boston Rob is correct that Bob the Drag Queen did come after Rob first in a way, mentioning the 3 new players. I still think it was over dramatic from Rob, though. I still think it was just too much scrambling. And then at the beginning of this episode, Rob is scrambling again. He just scrambled the night before, and now before even the mission, Rob is scrambling. And that's because Ivar went and ratted Wes out about Wes having suspicion about Boston Rob. Ivar showing that he's just an annoying cast member as well, like I expected him to be. He throws Wes under the bus to Boston Rob, and Rob starts spiraling. Rob goes straight to Wes to get words out of Wes. Wes plays it off like he threw Rob's name out there in a positive light. But Wes is pretty confident that Rob is a traitor. And that's because, judging by these 5 first episodes, Wes is one of, like, the only good players in the game, as a faithful at least, because everyone else has just been... Too many of them are sheep so far, which is a bad sign. And, you know, as I stated, it's hard at the first half of the game for the faithful to play because they are in the dark about everything. They have no real information to go on. And then if it's chaos, of course they're not going to truly know who to go for. But you have to be able to look at what evidence you do have. And Wes has done the best with that, which is not surprising. It's 2 seasons in a row now of the challenge players being the best players on the show. Maybe that is because they have so much experience. You know, they've all played the challenge about 75 times. So they have a lot of experience in games like this. So yeah, big ups to Wes. I expect him to be killed off sooner rather than later, though, because Rob's going to scramble and want him out of the game. I think, although other people did throw Rob's name out in this episode. So we'll see who Boston Rob scrambles for the most. But it's good to see people like Wes. Good to see people like Carolyn know Rob's game. Even Bob Harper in the round table throwing Boston Rob's name out there. Throwing his game out there because he plays the same every single time. Like I stated, it's good to see a player recognize that in this game. Harper saying that, of course, if Rob was a traitor, he would want to go after Bob the Drag Queen as to establish dominance, because that is the way Rob plays. He wants to be in charge. Bob Harper put that perfectly at the round table. In the edit, it seemed like the round table ended right there. I don't know if that was true, but if it was true, that was kind of more of the show maybe wanting to save Rob's ass. So I'm glad to see Bob Harper do that. I need the housewives to start watching this show before they actually go on it. With Dolores being the last housewife standing, I do not like her. Never watched Real Housewives of New Jersey. She has been grating on my nerves the last 2 episodes especially. I called her out last week for wanting people to be nice. This episode, she's whining and complaining during the mission because she wants to be saved, because she thinks she's next, because all the housewives are going. The housewives don't get the game most of the time. And it doesn't help them now that Phaedra did get the game as a traitor and was the only traitor last season that tried to play a good game. So now she put all these targets on the housewives going into the next season, which is why they've been getting offed one after another. I'm starting to understand the producers for the casting of the housewives this season and why they casted so many subpar housewives, because I think they knew that the ripple effect that Phaedra caused being such a good traitor last season, that it would put a lot of targets on the housewives' back. So they were like, let's just cast a bunch of subpar housewives. And Dolores is most definitely subpar. Now, one thing I will give the housewives, though, every season they've been on so far, is at least they know how to stay together and try to be loyal to each other as faithful and try to maybe even be a voting block at some point. Can't say the same for the supposed trio of Chrishelle, Nikki, Gabby. Chrishelle throwing Nikki under the bus was totally asinine. That was some of the bad gameplay I'm talking about here in this episode that was grinding my gears. Didn't understand it. I didn't understand why Chrishelle thought that Nikki would be shocked that Bob the drag queen threw her name out. Especially since it was actually a lie from Boston Rob. So Chrishelle really did put the nail in the coffin of her friend and one of her strongest allies at the round table by kind of pushing her own ally. Not even the housewives do that. And the housewives, when they're faithful, do not play very well most of the time. So these non-competition reality stars that play these games, if they're not going to cast half of the players to be regular people and they're going to continue to cast reality stars and people related to celebrities, then please watch the show before you actually go on it. That was a huge mistake from Chrishelle. I needed Bob Harper to crown Gabby and Chrishelle the biggest losers of this episode, because they were. And that's disappointing in Gabby, because I do like her. And I still think Gabby has a lot of potential. Dylan voting for Gabby at the round table was also dumb. But at least Zac Efron's brother does understand that a unanimous vote this early in the game, the first half of the season, is bad. Because you're going to be wrong. In this game, the Traitors, if it's looking like a unanimous vote, you have it wrong. At least the first half of the season. As the numbers dwindle, not so much. But right now, yeah. So Dylan was on it about that, but not about the vote for Gabby. Still didn't understand that. Zac Efron's brother's head is up Boston Rob's ass. I want to give Zac Efron's brother more credit because he is one of the only faithful that was on to Bob the drag queen. But because Zac Efron's brother is up Rob's butt so much, I can't give him credit right now. And I'm not gonna. In the end, Nikki was voted out. Nikki didn't put up much of a fight at the round table, but I did understand that because Chrishelle turning on her, it's like, what's the point after that? Clearly, so many votes are going towards her. I can't blame her for not fighting. After the vote, Chrishelle was definitely doing her soap opera acting because not a tear was seen at the end of that episode when she was crying for Nikki. Let that be known. Even Danielle can get out tears when she's doing her acting. Speaking of Danielle, she was another big part of this episode I haven't touched upon. Her throwing Carolyn under the bus, she is in a constant state of scrambling too. She has that similarity to Rob. And they come from the competition world of Big Brother and Survivor. So I get it. On Survivor, you're always scrambling before a vote. If you're a good player anyway. You should be. Well, that's not true. Sometimes you have to be calm. On Big Brother, you have so much time that of course you're going to scramble. Like on this show, at least on the edit, we never saw Cirie the first season truly scrambling. She was always remaining calm in calling the shots of what needed to be done right for her game. When Cirie was on Big Brother, she was scrambling every single day. Honestly, because what else are you going to do in the house? It's such a long game. On this game, though, Rob and Danielle always scrambling it's easy to get caught up. And I think they're going to get caught up. She scrambled in a ride home, throwing Carolyn under the bus, and then Zac Efron's brother brought that to Carolyn. So now Carolyn knows Danielle was throwing her name out. Judging by the preview, Carolyn's not going to stay quiet about it. I kind of thought that for Carolyn's game, maybe she should stay quiet about it for a minute or two, for at least a day or two. But maybe it is better to hash it out. I don't know. But the Traitors are a mess because Rob and Danielle are always scrambling and they want to be in charge. And then Carolyn never sticks up for her own game and never sticks up for a move that she wants to make. If she doesn't after this fiasco, I'm going to lose faith in Carolyn too. At this point, I still see her as the only traitor that can actually win this season because none of the faithful truly see her as a traitor right now because of her wacky personality. If Danielle can get one of them out before she is eliminated, whether it's Rob or Carolyn, I will have more faith in Danielle's game. But she continues to do the most. And sometimes it is too much. I think those were my main points of this episode. It's good to see Derek want to play a little more. I will say his read on Sierra the last week and even in this episode was so wrong. Him saying last episode, I was so caught up in Boston Rob and Bob's nonsense that I didn't even talk about it. But Derek using his investigative skills to target Sierra because she was cussing was some of the worst motive and evidence I've heard. Not looking good for Derek. And I know Derek is one of those people complaining about DEIs out there. So is he good at his job? Not judging by his investigative skills on this show. But I will say, if Derek actually if Derek survives the night, which I think he's gonna, I'm more concerned about Wes than I am Derek. I could see Wes being killed off next. But maybe it'd be Bob Harper. Someone that went after Rob is who Rob's gonna want out. But will Carolyn stick to her guns? We'll see. I think that if Derek actually goes after Rob next week, I will finally have to put some respect on his name during this season. Anyway, it's getting harder and harder to see how our Traitor is going to win this season. They are a mess. I fear that because we have all these nepotism castings in Britney Spears' ex, Zac Efron's brother, Tom, one of them has a good shot at winning. Zac Efron's brother is almost getting the best edit of the faithful other than Wes. I don't want him to win. I don't want a nepotism baby to win the season, but you know, he's out there, he's doing his little thing. I'll end it there for the week. We'll see what next week brings. On one hand, I have a little more faith in Danielle's game because I watched all the videos of most of the people eliminated falling for her acting. But then in this episode, she's scrambling again, throwing Carolyn under the bus. Boston Rob is once again playing the game he always plays, and people are onto that. And Carolyn just won't play her own game. She won't push for what she needs to happen for her own game. We'll see if she starts doing that after this chaotic episode with her own traitor and Danielle throwing her under the bus.